Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Gage Edwards with Waste360.com, back again with another interview with one of our 40 Under 40 award winners. I recently got a chance to speak with Monica Rowand, Senior Associate at WM. Monica has been described to me as a sustainability expert, and judging by our interview, I feel like if you watch it, you'll come away thinking the same thing. Monica was always eager to work in the sports world with a sustainability focus. And after working on waste procedures and hauling contracts at universities and athletic departments, Monica moved over to WM to help sports stadiums install plans to achieve zero waste. Reducing waste at sports stadiums comes with its own handful of challenges. But armed with her sustainability knowledge, Monica is always determined to find the best plan of action for her customers. So check out my interview with Monica right now and learn about the challenges that sports stadiums face when it comes to sustainability. Well, I guess first things first, Monica, I would like to talk about your career path to this point and how we got here to this conversation.
Sure. So I started my career in nonprofit. I started as an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer. Not many people are familiar with what AmeriCorps is. It's essentially the domestic version of the Peace Corps. So I was based at a nonprofit in New Orleans that focused on green urbanism, green building in the area. I really wanted to work in sports and sustainability in that intersection. So some mentors who were in that field advised me to go to grad school for business and to be able to speak that language and not just to the environmental side. So I did that and then ended up working internally at universities, including within the athletics departments on their sustainability programs, including managing waste procedures and hauling contracts. And that, I think, is what gave me the background to be able to join WM's team in the capacity that I have and work on advising customers from more of an external advising role, both on, of course, the waste components, but then also just comprehensive sustainability in general.
Very cool. I'm a big sports guy, so I can't wait to dive into that a little bit. But first, I want to talk a little bit of sustainability. I guess you've been described to me as a sustainability expert. So what does being a sustainability expert mean to you?
Oh boy, who's describing to me as that? No, just kidding.
I name no names.
To me, particularly the space of sustainability and expertise is really being able to hone in on or being well versed in the understanding of the holistic nature that sustainability is, and knowing that and being able to see that everything is interconnected. So it's more than just maybe knowing the specifics of what type of materials something is made out of and the impacts it has, but really being able to step back and look at how that fits within the web of both existing systems like society, the natural phases that it interacts with, and being able to look at things from that lens in order to evaluate and make recommendations on what would be cause the least harm or be the most sustainable path moving forward. Because unfortunately, in this world of sustainability, there is no silver bullet answer. It's always we joke internally within our team, there's always a decision tree of factors to have to bring it to. So being able to understand like the tenets or the branches of those trees, I think helps lead to that expertise.
Very cool. Now, sports stadiums and zero waste. How daunting of a task can that be when it comes to talking to the stadiums about making different changes or becoming zero waste? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, luckily we have a really great foundation. I walked into an amazing foundation at WM with the WM Phoenix Open. They have been achieving zero waste at that mega event since 2013. But we make it a very clear point with anyone that we work with that really the goal is waste awareness and waste conscious design, because unfortunately zero waste isn't always going to be an option. It depends. The daunting nature is that it depends so much on what is available locally in terms of diversion outlets. So approaching it from that basis in the first place, set the baseline and expectation, but then striving for the best we can in order to do that In order to do that, though, it means looking at things from a comprehensive materials management view. So the answer isn't just how do we get to zero by diverting or finding non landfill based options, but one, finding the next best use for things. It takes that, like we mentioned, like the holistic look at the different aspects, like how far will things have to travel to be diverted, what other additional impacts are included in that, but really where can we reduce the waste from being created in the first place. So looking first at reduction, and then how can we control the supply chain to manage what it is we have to deal with on the back end. How can we reduce other externalities and impacts that the things we're bringing in have before we even look at end of life. And then it's within a sports stadium, as you know, as a fan, I'm sure, like, yes, it is very important. You as a fan, like, what do you do with this item? What bin do you put it in? But really, that's one very small piece of the whole system. Like, that material then moves by multiple people to different places before it reaches whether it's diverted or not. So it takes them, it's a big lift from the entire system and making sure that everyone is on board, everyone is trained, and working together towards the same goal.
I gotcha. Yes. That's a lot of moving pieces in that, but I think it's another thing about recycling and sustainability I keep hearing is it takes a village. And when you bring thousands of people into a place to watch a team hopefully win, you want those people to also, throw things away in the right place or take care of what they're doing and doing it responsibly. So with that, I mean, these are big venues that are seeing thousands of people regularly. How important is it for them to have a more zero waste approach? Like, I know not every stadium is in on that. The National Stadium next to me, they're big on recycling, but not all of DC stadiums are big on recycling. So where do we start that conversation with the rest of them?
Sure. I think my answer to that would be twofold. One, in just looking at like the sustainable piece or how successful is a recycling or diversion program at a venue. Recycling, like, that is great, but the true power of doing this in sport is not just that, yes, there's a lot of material in one location in one day. If you look in the scheme of things, it's really not, like, the percentage around world waste generation, not that big. The true power of doing this through sport is being able to relay the message and your team modeling a behavior that hopefully can then move fans, suppliers, other stakeholders, so that we're moving a whole trajectory towards a certain shift in behavior, as opposed to just looking at in the capsule of that game day. And then also recognizing that the waste piece is figuratively and literally, well, maybe not, it's not an actual iceberg, but the tip of the iceberg, in that in a lot of cases, like, recycling and waste diversion is sort of the gateway into sustainability for a lot of organizations, no matter whether it be sports or otherwise, because it is the visible piece. But then understanding that, again, looking at the comprehensive and the entire inventory of impacts across the board, it really plays a small role. Being able to control the end of life is amazing and keeps those resources in the system for us to use, which is important because of the end of life impacts, but even more so important because of all of the embedded emissions, water use, person power that went into creating these things. We want to keep those in the system so that we're not having to pull additional resources that aren't necessary. And then that doesn't even begin to address other aspects of sustainability that are a little further from that branch in that tree and holistic nature. Did that answer your question, Gage?
Yes, I think I've got it. I'm also hearing that we could be here for hours on hours talking about how stadiums can be zero waste. But I think it's interesting you say that, like, if a team puts zero waste forward, more likely that their fans are also going to think more zero waste. I mean, if the Ravens ask me to jump off a bridge, I'm jumping off a bridge. So if they want to be zero waste, I will be zero waste.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because we use that argument a lot on our end, or maybe not argument, persuasive nature, and glad to hear without prompting on your end.
Yes, you can have this soundbite to use in your next proposal. Like, look, this guy's going to do it. We can it's right there. So
Yeah.
let's move on away from the stadiums a little bit. Just talk about you yourself. For you, I guess I always ask people who work in sustainability, like what their personal approach is to sustainability and recycling, what their philosophy is. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I think I've sort of weaved that into some of my answers before, but really just the comprehensive nature. I used to joke with people that, like, you can say, oh, so and so sees the world through rose-colored lenses. And I'm like, oh, I see the world through green-colored lenses. Really, no matter what the situation is, or if I'm presented with a problem, um, I really like that I have the ability to look at things through those green lenses. And so, usually a customer might present a problem or a barrier to reaching XYZ goals in sustainability, whether they be waste related or if they might be energy or like person related. But being able to step back and identify the different links and barriers, how one aspect is then related to another. Like, oh, if we're worried about we don't have enough labor maybe to capture recycling in a seeding bowl separately from the other material, well, where can we then reduce labor needs elsewhere? And really just a matter of looking for efficiencies across the board and to achieve efficiencies down the road.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what everyone is talking about when they're like, I just want to be good at it. Like, I want to make sure that I'm doing it the right way. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
And now taking a step back to kind of just talk about why we're here, the 40 under 40 award that you won. What was your reaction to that? Were you surprised?
To be honest, yes, very surprised. It was definitely surprising. It was an honor to be recognized, and also knowing, or from what I think I figured out on how the process works to get that honor, is understanding that means that my peers are recognizing or appreciate my efforts. But I would be remiss to say, and like cannot ignore the fact that everything that I do really builds upon the teamwork of like my teams that I work with, specifically the teams of like literal teams and customers and their staff and people. I've been lucky with WM that I walked into such an awesome baseline, both with the WM Phoenix Open as well as like what we're able to do with other customers. In previous roles and working at universities, yes, I was able to bring the ideas to the table, but it's not ever one person that brings it to fruition. It's custodial teams, it's food service teams, it's leadership who have to make the decision and then put in the hard work. So I am lucky that I am in a forward-facing role, but I definitely always want to make sure that it's recognized that it's built upon the efforts and actual action of lots of people. And then very happy to be at a company that is so invested in improving what's possible for our customers and in terms of sustainability, making large investments both in the area of recycling and renewable natural gas in order to improve the options and make even more sustainable aspects possible for across the board.
Very cool. Yeah, so I guess working with teams, you also recognize it takes a whole team to get the job done. So none of this hero ball nonsense that we see in some sports.
I didn't say it.
Yeah, I listen. Again, I'm a sports guy. I guess going off that before we end our little chat here, what's your sport of choice? What are you a fan of the most?
Baseball.
Baseball. So who's winning the World Series then? There's one right answer.
I don't know if I can answer because I don't want to alienate any of our customers. But I live most of the time in Denver. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well,
and
the correct
reality
answer,
versus my heart might not agree also.
Well, the correct answer was the Orioles. It's our year. It's time. It's finally time. Monica, thank you for joining me. Is there anything else you'd like to offer to anyone listening to this at the moment, like to tell anyone who's maybe watching this?
Sure. I mean, of course, first of all, thanks for watching. If you're watching, it means you're probably doing something in this space. So, in general, I'd like thank you for any efforts there. And really, just if looking for advice on how to succeed or progress, is I can't stress enough the importance of looking at the long term, but also being able to pinpoint like what are easy wins that you can keep momentum going over time. And that's what's pretty cool about the waste area. It's very easy to illustrate success. So being able to focus in on that and use it as a piece to then progress larger game plans moving forward. Definitely a suggestion that I would make for all.
You can find more interviews just like this one at waste360.com or on our YouTube page. Our 40 Under 40 award winners are chock full of knowledge and interesting stories from the waste industry, so I encourage you to check out our other interviews. Also, be sure to check out wasteexpo.com for more info on our big event next year, and stay tuned to our social channels for the latest headlines in the waste industry. As always, thanks for watching.